Finding ways to be financially savvy is a smart move. And knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want, like that dream home or new ride, is a great feeling. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you save when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Amazon Health AI presents Painful Thoughts.
I can't stop scratching my downtown. Yeah, but I'm not itching to go downtown and tell a receptionist I'm here to talk about my downtown. Some things you'd rather type than say out loud.
There's no question too embarrassing for Amazon Health AI. Chat your symptoms and get virtual care 24/7. Healthcare just got less painful.
Oh, no.
So, Tash, I was playing a game yesterday where I had to, with some friends, where I had to have a secret mission where I had to invent a word, a made-up word, and use it in conversation without anyone noticing that I'd made up a word.
Are you going to try and do that with me now?
Well, it might happen during the course of this episode, yeah.
Wow.
So let's see.
You're listening to The Logbooks.
These are the stories of our lives.
We are Tash Walker
and Adam Zmith.
We're telling tales about history, politics, art, and LGBTQ+ life.
Tash, what's the story?
Well, actually, Adam, I wanted to bring something for us to talk about today that kind of connects us both. It's about queer history. It's about reconnecting across the generations. And specifically, I want us to talk about this amazing book, An Army of Lovers Cannot Fail, alongside some photograph exhibitions that I've been to recently at the Photographer's Gallery, Donna Gottschalk, and then at the National Portrait Gallery, Catherine Opie.
Okay.
And I'm taking a step back and I'm going to say, Adam, let's have a think about the politics of what it is to be seen.
Okay. So that's going to be our messy middle. That's what we're getting into. And that's a really good kind of like overview of the story. It also says here in our notes, the politics of being seen and photography as a form of care.
Yeah, totally.
So that's a bit of a ... Okay. So before we get into the messy middle, should we have an ad break?
Finding ways to be financially savvy is a smart move. And knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want, like that dream home or new ride, is a great feeling. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you save when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Amazon Health AI presents Painful Thoughts.
Why did I search the internet for answers to my cold sore problem? Now I'm stuck down a rabbit hole filled with images of alarmingly graphic sores in various stages of ooze. I can clear my search history, but I can never unsee that.
Don't go down the rabbit hole. Amazon Health AI gets you the right care, fast. Healthcare just got less painful.
Here's a tip for you. There's a podcast out there with fans waiting to be your next customer. They tune in every week, they trust the host, and that host wants to talk about brands like yours in their own words to their audience. The problem is, you just haven't been introduced yet. We're Acast, where that introduction happens. As the world's largest podcast marketplace, we let you browse shows, see who's listening, and book host-read sponsorships or run your own ads, all from one platform. Transparent pricing, real-time data, complete control. Start advertising on podcasts by visiting acast.com/advertise.
I was telling you, Adam, about an event I went to at the Photographer's Gallery just after our tour finished, actually. It was the evening we got back from Newquay. You went out dancing and I went to the Photographer's Gallery. Amazing. And the talk that I saw there was about Donna Gottschalk's exhibition, which is amazing and has been on display at the Photographers Gallery. And it was just absolutely brilliant. But it coincides with an event that you actually did this week. And I wanted to hear a bit more from you about that.
Yeah, well, the event was the book launch for An Army of Lovers Cannot Fail that we mentioned at the top of the episode. It's by a French author called Hélène Giannacchini, and she has written really quite an amazing book. It's just out from Fitzcarraldo. So we did a book launch together, and Fitzcarraldo, her publisher, for the English translation, it was translated by Anna Moskovakis. Fitzcarraldo booked me to do the chat with Hélène in Veranda Books in Marble Arch. So I was like, yes, please, I want to chat to Hélène in front of an audience. That was great.
Amazing. And I was actually going to come to the talk, but then I got tickets to go and see Robin.
Okay, that's true.
Perform her new album, Sexistential, which is amazing. So I thought, what a better time than today to maybe have you tell me a bit about how it was to speak to Hélène. I mean, I saw her speak with Donna. She's brilliant. She's very got this amazing energy. She's very calm, measured, but curious too. And I saw her in conversation with Donna, who that relationship features in the book. And it was a really wonderful thing to witness. But the conversation was definitely more focused on Donna. So I'm really intrigued to hear what Hélène's reflections were on writing this book and building that connection with Donna.
Yeah, I mean, we talked quite a lot about her obsession with photography, and she kind of hints at this a bit in the book when she's writing about her method, but her method as a writer really starts with visual images, which is kind of interesting if you think that her form is writing, but it's visual images that start her going, that prompt her. So she says how she trawls around flea markets and eBay buying old photographs that she doesn't know where they come from or who they depict. And she that's a real nerd hobby that she has. So you would kind of guess that from reading the book, because she talks about finding old pictures in flea markets, and there's a couple of pictures that she has that are very important to her, and she describes them in the book, and they're actually printed in the book as well. And then she talks about them. And so if I give an example, one of the most touching ones in the book it's a photo of two guys. One is in full shoes and one is in slippers, and they're both lounging on the floor outside. So the fact that one's in slippers and one's in shoes is interesting to her, because it's are they inside, are they outside? How chill is it? And they're kind of embracing each other in a very informal, casual way. And they just look like gay pals, or even gay partners or gay lovers. And there's a backpack that one of them has, and then there's a shadow of the person who's taking the photograph.
Yes, I remember this.
Which, Hélène thinks it looks like a female, feminine shadow because of the shape. So that's a guess. And so there's this guess that who is this woman, this person who's taking the photo? And so we don't know who any of these things are. Hélène got obsessed with the backpack that's in the picture and went into deep internet research to try to find when that backpack would have been manufactured, and therefore what that could tell us about the people in the picture.
Amazing.
So basically that's just an example to give our listeners an example of what she's talking about when she's talking about pictures. So she starts with that, and then she starts to think about what does this say about queer histories in terms of, in this case, it's what does it mean about gay men in France in the 1940s? Because that's kind of when she roughly dates that image to, who were not famous people or anything like that, but they're just two guys. And so it's really about like you said at the beginning, the visibility of that, and the fact that this person had taken this photo of these two, and that it's captured so that she can now inherit that picture. So that was a big thing that she was talking about, was a writing method which derives from photos and visual imagery.
It makes me think about the art of documentation as a form of care. Not only that person whose shadow that we see is capturing a moment, one would assume maybe they're part of that moment as well, and what's behind that mode to capture it, but then also what Hélène is doing with these photos now in bringing them back to light and imagining a queer lens through them, and how she also goes and visits Donna Gottschalk in America in the book, and Donna entrusts her. So Donna is a lesbian photographer who gave up her photography officially, and hasn't delved into that part of her life for a really long time. And Helen got in touch with Donna, went to visit her in Vermont, and spent some time with Donna looking through her negatives. And then Donna entrusts Helen this bag of negatives that has been hidden away. The parallels to obviously our work on the logbooks feel really, really strong. And then Helen takes those negatives back to Paris, where she lives, and starts to look through them. And there's this act of care that's happening, an intergenerational act of care with Helen looking into these photographs with an energy that Donna no longer has, to be able to look at whose stories are in there, what part of Donna's life has been there, what was Donna trying to do in capturing that moment in time, and then looking at how we can, or how she can bring to life these images and have other people come and view them. And it makes me think about what we bring to an image when we look at it, and it's as much as who we are that informs what we see as part of that image. One of the things that, speaking of the images that are printed in the book, one of the images that I was really drawn to was this image of like 4 young the people who are presenting as girls. I don't know how old they are. They're sort of ageless. Helen, again, isn't able to trace them, but there's a closeness between 2 of them that you can't assume to be anything one way or another. But what Helen draws from it is a certainty around the friendship that's being expressed in this photograph. There's an intimacy there in the way that they're holding each other, and that's one of the things that I found so beautiful about the book, is that this is a book about queer history. It's about Helen, it's about Helen's life, and it's about these photographs. But one of the main takeaways I took from it was the importance of friendship and whatever we want to call it, chosen family, queer family, that runs central to this book, which is so beautiful and lovely to own as a really important act of love and care. Yeah,
that was another thing that she talked about in the Q&A that we did in the bookshop, was about the fact that whenever she looks at photos of like queer people and the queer scene, they're almost always pictures of nightlife and protest. And so you've got, famous photographers of queer nightlife like Nan Goldin. And then you've also got like endless photos of, pride marches or other protest marches, whether it's against like Section 28 in Britain or whatever. And she said how like it was another motivating factor for writing this book and collecting these photos, which are, as you say, photos of queer friendship, and Donna Gottschalk's photos are all really queer friendships, that Helen was thinking, why is there no pictures of queer friendships? Why is it that all of the famous photos and almost all of the photos that you see most often about queer life are about protest or about nightlife, which is, in both of those forms, is when the queer people are performing their identity, not in a way that it's like made up, but they're having to like, they're famous because it's like, okay, this is a queer person being a queer person in a way that the viewer kind of recognizes that. Like, this is a queer person with a protest sign saying trans rights now, obviously important, but it's like, that's how they're identified in that picture. And the same with like nightlife. This is a queer person. This is a guy in chaps. I don't know, whatever. And so like, you've got all these things. And so she says like, she's interested in queer friendships and photos of queer friendships where it's just people like hanging out basically, and they're not performing their queerness in the same way. They're just being. They're more being, and that's why Donna Gottschalk's photos spoke to Helen so much, and why Helen worked to bring them out and to bring them into galleries, and kind of take them on from Donna and give them a new life, was to say like, look, this is a section of photos which are lives worth documenting and worth seeing, just because they're queer people just like living their lives and they're just being.
I love this idea of, I'm really interested in this idea of performing our identity and performance, and also perceived performance. And so often when we talk about performance of an identity, especially those photographs that you were talking about, and you're completely right, it's protests, it's nightlife, those acts of capturing those performances of identity are through the lens of like a heteronormative framing as well, which is kind of fascinating. And I've been to see Donna Gottschalk's exhibition, and I was really struck by the everyday nature of it, and how how rare it feels to be looking at it. As a queer person looking at these pictures of people in the 60s and 70s in America and New York, just standing on the street, hanging out. Like that for me is a shocking photo to see, because I'm not used to it. I've seen the protest ones, I've seen the marches, I've seen the die-ins, I've seen the clubs, but have I seen the tenderness that's held between two people who are friends? And there's this image which is called like the baby dykes, and Donna talked about it when I saw her speak. And it was just a group of friends that hung out on the street corners in New York. And it's just amazing. It's so touching and sensitive. And it really reminds me a lot of the work that we do, in that what the work that we're trying to do is to redefine history and what makes history and those everyday stories of living. And that is just things that we don't have access to, or we didn't have access to growing up. You could imagine yourself as a queer person in the club or protesting, but what about all of those other moments in between? Are you not queer then? Exactly. And so it's so fascinating.
Should we have a little ad break?
Great.
You've got some postcards there, Tash.
I do, Adam, and actually one of them...
Are these from the exhibition?
They are. There's some postcards from the photographs of Donna Gottschalk. I've actually cut one of them up. Okay. Because I've been making cards from it.
Oh, great. This is like loads of like...
That's Donna.
What looks like photos from a passport booth or something.
Yeah, they're of Donna Gottschalk.
She's great hair. Like, I love the big curly hair.
Yeah,
and she's also not smiling in any of them. She's looking like really contemplative or moody. Yeah. One of them looks like a mugshot.
So the ones from Donna's are all in black and white. There's two more here. This one's of two women with a Lesbians Unite poster in the background. And they're in quite like an intimate physical pose.
On the sofa, yeah. And one of them is Marlene, which is who was like a big subject for Donna. Like she took pictures of Marlene over decades, didn't she?
She did. And one of the things that struck with me when I saw her speak was about how she said she lost touch with Marlene and then eventually found that she died like on her own, and there was a sadness in that loss of connectivity. But when you like read about Donna in Hélène's book, there's this sort of bigger point where Donna was just taking photos for themselves. These were her friends, these were her loved ones. It was just an act of care almost to document them throughout that period of time, which is really interesting to see that in an exhibition, and then to think about who you are as a viewer on those intimate moments. There's not this idea of performance. And at the same time, at the National Portrait Gallery, Catherine Opie, who's a queer photographer who's been a photographer for a long time and who is notable, let's just remember Donna Gottschalk has never had an exhibition before. She's a poor older woman who's not very well, who lives in North America. And then there's Catherine Opie, who is a notable photographer, and her exhibition, I bought some postcards from there. I was thinking about the difference between the two, and these are of queer life as well. And these are some of my favourite ones. That one there is great that you've got, Adam. Do you want to describe it?
Dyke. It's from 1993, and it's, the subject has the word dyke tattooed on her neck, so I'm assuming that she's a dyke. And you can't see her face because it's just the back of her upper body, like above the bum, the bare back, and she's obviously just like and the back of her head, and she's got an earring in each ear and a tattoo on the arm as well, and she's got very short cropped hair, and then there's like a flowery blue wallpaper that she's looking at, so that's what we can see. It's just the back of this dyke's body, basically. Yeah,
it's amazing. And at the launch, the person who that was there, and they took another photo with the dyke tattoo in front of it. But these photos are all really beautiful. They're in colour, and they do look and feel very different to Donna's. And I was trying to work out what the difference is. And, Catherine Opie is a portrait photographer, and there's something of a collaboration in each of those images, which is very different. It's the subjects being invited in to the image and a piece of art being made from it, rather than what Donna does, which is so much more documentary style. And they're both amazing and wonderful to see in connection with each other, but it does bring back this idea of performance as well into it, which I think is super interesting.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to bring up from the chat that I had with Hélène Giannacchini was about visibility, because that was something that you know, when there's a book event and there's a Q&A with the author, and the sort of Q&A section with the audience takes on a life of its own a bit, and people start responding and coalescing around one particular subject that has been in the air through the whole time, but everyone starts to kind of like amass around that subject. And that subject in this case was the question of visibility versus opacity and the political strategy about all of this. So I'll unpack that a little bit more.
Interesting.
So basically one of the things that Ellen said about I guess her work and her queer politics, and it's something that comes out of the types of photographs she likes, like Donna Gottschalk's photos that we've been talking about, is the idea of keeping something for ourselves as queer people. So she says, you know, that she went to visit Donna, as you said, and she looked through all Donna's photos. She got to spend a couple of days with Donna, and she came back with the photos and has mounted these exhibitions in London and I think Paris using Donna's photos, all obviously with like support and consent from Donna and everything. But she said, you know, there were things that went on in those 2 days when she was visiting Donna that I didn't write about in my book, and I'm not going to tell you now.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, that's for me to have that and for Donna to have that. And there's something important about keeping some things mysterious about our lives. And I thought that was really interesting because it contrasts with the way that in recent years, well, really, the whole Stonewall revolution has all been about visibility. So the past 50 plus years of like LGBTQ plus politics, including very hotly in the past 5 to 10 years, has been about visibility. First of all, visibility as an end in and of itself. Like, yes, let's show the world who we are. This is what we look like. If it's me, I'm like a gay, cisgender man. This is who I am, and I need to have my space. I need to come out, and this is what I look like, and this is how I dance, whatever. And then other identities as well, being represented on TV and everything like that. But that is only one half of the political strategy. You know, that's in my opinion. Like, you know, when people say like, oh, I like this film because the characters looked like me or they felt like me, that is great. But like, it's not, in my opinion, it's not like fully liberatory politics. Like, that's not enough. It has to do more than just represent, in my opinion. So there was this question about, this topic about visibility as a political strategy, because what's happening now is we're very, very visible in places like London and in Britain, like in the media and everything. And yet what's happening is there's this backlash against queer people and especially trans people. So like, it clearly doesn't work that just like the more visible trans people are, the less backlash there's going to be. That's not what's happened. It's actually the opposite. So I'm not saying like people need to go back into their caves or anything like that. But it was just I hadn't thought of it before. That came up and Ellen talked about it, and then the people in this bookshop event, we were all kind of talking about it during the Q&A together, that like it's not an automatic given that it's a good political strategy. First of all, there's something nice to have some mystery and to keep something for ourselves. It's just a nice thing to do. And second of all, as a political strategy, how do you not make yourself a target whilst also claiming your rights? Yeah,
that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. It makes me think that like the rights that we're fighting for are the rights that we want. Equity, let's see when we get there. But it's also the right to not say anything as well, and to stay at home and to like just live. I think it's a really interesting thing. It reminds me a lot about what happened and what we've learned about in our work when there was a partial decriminalisation of homosexuality in 1967, where you had what felt like a movement forward and a progress for our rights. But then, of course, one of the biggest things that came out of that was an increase in police raids and arrests targeting men having sex with men, and cottaging, cruising, as well as in nightclubs, and all of the raids that happened throughout that period of time. And it's such a classic thing that's happened historically, is that whenever you have an element of progress going forward, then there is always some kind of backlash to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that what we are doing right now, there is this increased level of visibility, which then allows us to be more visible targets. This is making me think again of like what happened at Switchboard when the Admiral Duncan bombings happened in 1999. That was an attack on our community, and then what happened was Switchboard as a visible entity of the queer community saw an increase in people ringing up and being hateful towards them.
Exactly.
So the moment before you become an everyday person, you are a target. But it's in order to become the everyday person, there has to be this sort of spike of being a target. It's so complicated. But I love that what you said, Ellen said around like this air of mystery and keeping an air of mystery.
She talked about a project in France, which is a trans archive project for trans people and by trans people. I don't know the name of this project. Probably if I'd asked her, either she didn't know or she wouldn't have said, because that's not the point. It's a bunch of trans people collecting stuff, calling it their own project. It's calling it some kind of archive for themselves. I don't even know what it is because I'm not a trans person, but like there's a project that's happening, you know, that is about collecting trans stuff, you know, for trans people. And that's really, really good because, you know, that takes me back to Magnus Hirschfeld's Institute in Berlin, you know, in the 20s and then into the 30s. And it was a very visible research institute and center for, you know, trans and gender non-conforming people and homosexuals and queer people. And so it was like literally one of the first places that the Nazis raided and burnt the library and burnt the archive of, because it was so visible. Again, I'm not saying like you shouldn't proudly open an archive and, you know, tell the world what it is and tell the world what's in it. Part of having archives is being public and being accessible, but I also think that it's interesting that as a strategy, you might also want to keep things like private and keep things in, because then the Nazis, when they come to power again, don't know where it is.
There's a complexity between the two things, and I think that it's the same thing that happens when you step out into public as a queer person. There's a part of you which you show the world and a part which you keep back, and not everyone has to do that. Not everyone has to stand up and fight for queer rights, and not everyone has to put themselves in the position opposite a fascist in this example. And that's why it's amazing that the world is made up of so many different kinds of people who can do those separate things. And it's the idea of creating something like the archive or a place that's visible, because the amount of power and inspiration that place will provide in maybe the days and minutes it survives will far outlast the damage that's done for it being destroyed. And I think that's how you see progress happen, isn't it?
Well, I think we've had a lot of sparks that have come out of An Army of Lovers Cannot Fail by Ellen Giannichini. Yeah, Spherics. All these spherics and sparks that have come out. So that book, An Army of Lovers Cannot Fail, Ellen Giannichini, and also the exhibitions by Donna Gottschalk and Catherine Opie that are on right now as we record this in London. I'm not sure when they finish, but we can put notes to them put links to them in the episode notes. That was our messy middle.
So the two exhibitions that we've just spoken about, the National Portrait Gallery's Catherine Opie and the Photographers Gallery's exhibition of Donna Gottschalk's work, are both on until the end of May and June. So you've got plenty of time to go check them out if you're in London.
Great.
Otherwise, you can find examples of both of their work online, and it really is worth searching them, Googling them.
Great. Yeah. I am currently watching The Boyfriend on Netflix. So I think that's what I'm going to do next. Before I go to the exhibitions, I'm going to have to finish watching The Boyfriend. That's my next chapter.
Is it? Okay, yeah. Adam.
Because I'm like hooked now. I'm halfway through season 2 and I need to finish it, even though it's very slow. It's like God. 53 episodes long.
I did watch the first episode and it was very tender and touching, and I don't think I'll be watching anymore. But listeners, maybe you can tell us what you're watching. Yeah. Are you watching The Boyfriend? Are you 53 episodes down? Yeah. Or are you halfway through like Adam?
Most importantly, are you on Team Jobu? Because that's simple. I need to know if you're behind Jobu or not.
Am I on Team Jobu?
Well, you have to watch it and tell me.
Okay, more on that later.
Yeah, he's a cutie. In the meantime, what you can also do is, listeners, if you're not watching The Boyfriend, is you can subscribe to Arnell's Patreon, as well as subscribing to your Netflix. You can subscribe to Arnell's Patreon, which within a few months will be big enough to rival Netflix, actually. So please do subscribe to our Patreon. It helps us support us to make the Logbooks podcast and a lot of the other podcasts and other projects that Aunt Nell does. So that's really valuable. Thank you.
Yeah. And do stay in touch. Get in touch with us at Aunt Nell on Instagram, AuntNell_, or via auntnell.com. There's a contact us section on the website.
Yeah. See you next week. The Logbooks is an Aunt Nell production.
It is hosted and produced by Tash Walker and Adam Zmith.
The assistant producer is Mia Campbell. Music from Soundstripe.
Original artwork by Natalie Doto.
With thanks to the dreamboats at Acast.
Finding ways to be financially savvy is a smart move. And knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want, like that dream home or new ride, is a great feeling. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you save when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Amazon Health AI presents Painful Thoughts.
I can't stop scratching my downtown. Yeah, but I'm not itching to go downtown and tell a receptionist I'm here to talk about my downtown. Some things you'd rather type than say out loud.
There's no question too embarrassing for Amazon Health AI. Chat your symptoms and get virtual care 24/7. Healthcare just got less painful.
You've got social dialed in. Search is doing its thing. So why do your marketing results look the same as 6 months ago? That's because you're fishing in the same pond as everyone else. Podcast listeners are a different audience entirely. More engaged, harder to reach through traditional channels, and ready to act when someone they trust makes a recommendation. We're Acast, and we put them right in front of you. Browse thousands of the world's leading podcasts, book host reads or run your own ads, and track every conversion in real time. Same skills you already have, brand new results. Acast. Acast.com/advertise.